18,800. That is how many Yakuza members remained in Japan by the end of 2024, down from more than 180,000 in the 1960s. One of the most sophisticated organized crime syndicates in history is collapsing, not because of gang wars or police shootouts, but due to something far more effective: bureaucratic strangulation. Japan did not outlaw the Yakuza. Instead, it made it almost impossible for them to exist. The strategy has worked so well that it may have created something even more dangerous, because what replaced the Yakuza could be worse than what came before. To understand how Japan dismantled organized crime, you first need to understand what the Yakuza actually were, because they were unlike criminal organizations anywhere else in the world. In 1963, Yakuza membership reached its height at 184,000 members nationwide. These were not street criminals hiding in the shadows. They functioned as a parallel power structure, operating openly in ways unthinkable in Western countries. Yakuza groups maintained office buildings with their names displayed on signs. Members carried business cards identifying their syndicate affiliation. They ran registered companies that paid taxes and filed paperwork with government regulators. They attended community festivals, provided security, and even helped organize local events. After earthquakes and tsunamis, Yakuza groups often arrived before government agencies, delivering food, water, and emergency supplies. Some politicians openly acknowledged their support during election campaigns, though this became less common as public sentiment shifted. This openness was protected by a unique feature of Japanese law. Yakuza membership itself was not illegal. A person could openly belong to a known criminal syndicate without breaking the law, as long as they were not caught committing specific crimes. Their structure mirrored Japan's traditional feudal system. At the top sat the oyabun, a father figure commanding absolute loyalty. Beneath him were the kobun, or children, bound by ritual obligations stronger than legal contracts. These bonds were formalized through sake ceremonies involving ritual drinking, cup exchanges, and vows considered more serious than marriage or business agreements. Yakuza members identified themselves through full-body tattoos known as irizumi. These tattoos covered the body from neck to ankles and took years to complete, costing tens of thousands of dollars. Each design told a personal story using traditional imagery such as dragons, koi fish, cherry blossoms, and Buddhist figures. The tattoos were applied using traditional hand-poked techniques rather than modern machines. Enduring the pain was seen as proof of commitment. They also practiced yubitsume, the ritual removal of finger joints, as an apology for failure or disrespect. Members would cut off part of their little finger and present it to their superior as a physical demonstration of remorse. Repeat failures meant additional joints were removed, creating permanent markers of a member's history. These were not simple initiation rituals. They were cultural practices rooted in centuries-old concepts of honor, loyalty, and hierarchy. Major syndicates controlled territories with precision comparable to corporate franchises. The Yamaguchi Gumi, based in Kobe, was the largest. At its peak in 1991, it had 63,800 full members and 27,200 associate members, more personnel than many national militaries. Other major groups included the Sumiyoshi Kai in Tokyo, known for political connections, and the Inagawa Kai, heavily involved in gambling and entertainment. Together, these organizations infiltrated real estate, manipulated property values, rigged construction bids, extorted corporations, engaged in stock market fraud, and controlled talent agencies and concert venues. They had politicians on payrolls, corrupt police officers feeding information, and legitimate businesses generating massive legal profits alongside criminal operations. Removing them seemed impossible. Then the Japanese government tried. In 1992, Japan passed the Act on Prevention of Unjust Acts by organized crime group members, commonly called the Anti-Boryokuden Act. The term Boryokuden means violence groups, deliberately avoiding the romanticized term Yakuza. The law did not criminalize membership. Instead, it targeted behavior and granted police new powers. Syndicates could be officially designated as organized crime groups. Once designated, members faced restrictions on business activities, financial transactions, and access to certain locations. Police could issue cease and desist orders against intimidation and extortion before violence occurred. Violating these orders carried prison sentences. 24 syndicates were immediately designated, including the Yamaguchi-gumi, Sumiyoshi-kai, and Inagawa-kai. Membership began declining from 123,000 in 1992 to about 91,000 by 2000, but the Yakuza adapted. They moved meetings underground, used non-members as business fronts, and shifted toward less visible crimes like online fraud and offshore investments. They were wounded, but not defeated. The real turning point came in October 2011, when Tokyo became the final prefecture to adopt Yakuza exclusion ordinances. For the first time, all 47 prefectures enacted laws designed to cut Yakuza off from everyday society. These ordinances did not target the Yakuza directly. Instead, they targeted anyone who did business with them. Businesses were banned from making any payments to Yakuza members, even for legitimate services. Landlords were prohibited from renting to them. Banks could not provide accounts, loans, or credit cards. Phone companies terminated service. Utilities refused connections. Car dealerships refused sales. Insurance policies were denied. Violating these rules carried devastating penalties, massive fines, loss of business licenses, and public disclosure that destroyed reputations. Lists of violating businesses were published, triggering boycotts. This was third-party enforcement on a national scale. Every landlord, bank, and company became an enforcer. The message was clear. Doing business with the Yakuza made you a criminal too. The impact was catastrophic. Members could not rent apartments or book hotel rooms. Bank accounts were closed without warning. Phones were disconnected. Vehicles could not be purchased. Even toll roads began blocking Yakuza-linked license plates. Their children faced school discrimination. Families were socially ostracized. Neighbors refused to speak to them. This was not prison. It was civil death. By 2024, total Yakuza membership had fallen to 18,800, including fewer than 10,000 full members. The average age was 54. More than half were over 50, and some leaders were in their 80s. Young people stopped joining. The rewards disappeared. The stigma became permanent. Tattoos, missing fingers, and criminal records made reintegration nearly impossible. Former members reported being unable to open bank accounts for years, rent apartments, or protect their children from harassment. Once you joined, you were marked for life. Internal collapse accelerated in 2015 when the Yamaguchi-gumi split into rival factions. Violence followed. Shootings, stabbings, and firebombings. Further splits followed in 2017. By 2025, exhaustion set in. The factions declared an end to their decade-long feud, not from strength, but weakness. The Yakuza's era of dominance is over. Most analysts agree they will not survive in any recognizable form. The real question is what replaces them, and whether Japan's success has created a more fragmented, unpredictable criminal landscape that may prove even harder to control. Japan may have dismantled the Yakuza, but the future of organized crime in Japan remains uncertain.